Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books. Today we are here for Tag Tuesday and we're going to do a little bit different this week. We are going to do the A to Z survey, which was originally created by Jamie, the Perpetual page turner. And this is a tag where we're going to go over prompts from A to Z. So each prompt starts with another letter of the alphabet all the way down to Z. So we're going to talk about a lot of books really fast. I'm going to try not to go into the super prolonged detail because obviously this could turn into a 2-hour video. Jump right in with A. Prompt A is author you've read the most books from. I'm going to switch this up because I've already talked about all the series that I've read in pretty good detail on this channel. So I'm going to switch it up to author that I own the most books from currently but have not read. And that is Nnedi Okorafor. I have several of her books throughout my bookshelves. I finished Akata Witch in December and I have Noor on my TBR. I'm also going to be getting the next books in the Akata Witch series, Akata Warrior and Akata Woman. And there's a few other books by her as well that I'm hoping to get soon. But I have quite a bit of her work on my shelves currently, so this is the author that I have the most of right now. Prompt B is the best sequel ever. Same thing, I don't want to just talk about the same series over and over again. So we're going to change it to what I think is going to be the best sequel ever. I read The Henna Artist in November last year and really loved it. And I have the sequel to it, The Secret Keeper of Jaipur by Alka Joshi here. It's on my TBR coming up soon. And I think this is going to be an amazing sequel. I love The Henna Artist. This is such beautiful writing. I'm learning so much about India via these books. And I am really looking forward to this one. Prompt C, currently reading. So I'm not technically currently reading this, but I will be as of tonight. Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. This is on my TBR for the month. And I just finished another book, so I'm picking this one up. I'll be starting it tonight. So technically by the time that you see this video tomorrow, I will be currently reading this. This is about a character named Simi who is a merperson. She collects the souls of people who have washed overboard on boats and drowned. And she starts kind of a unbalancing of sorts when she saves a child from drowning and pushes him back onto the boat. She has to go on an epic journey to Mamiwata to kind of rebalance the world that she's from. I'm really looking forward to this. It sounds like a great book. Prompt D, drink of choice while reading. Just depends on the time of day, what's going on in my life. Like my books, I'm a mood drinker as well, apparently. I'm a mood reader, a mood eater, a mood drinker. If it's early in the morning, I tend to like Irish or English breakfast tea with cream and sugar. Sometimes, on a rare occasion, I'll treat myself to a coffee. Coffee doesn't agree with me that much since I'm in my 30s now. So it's like an occasional treat. I do really love it. I just can't drink it a lot. I love a good hot cocoa, especially when it's cold outside. Throw a shot of Bailey's in that hot cocoa and it's even better. And after a really long, stressful day, sometimes I enjoy a glass of wine while I read. You know, take a hot bath, have a glass of wine, good book. It's like the best decompression ever. Prompt E, e-reader or physical book? Physical book all the way. As you can see, I have lots of physical books behind me. This is just one shelf like this. I have 2 other shelves on the other side of the room and another shelf with all cookbooks and still more books in my room. So definitely physical books. I occasionally will put a book on my e-reader, but I don't really love reading on the e-reader because it tends to give me migraines if I do it too much. I can do short periods of it, like maybe 20-30 minutes if I'm sitting in an office waiting for an appointment or something, but generally I try to avoid that as much as possible. Prompt F, fictional character you probably would have actually dated in high school. I don't really understand this one. I don't think that I've ever been so invested in a fictional character that I've considered if I would have dated them or not. I enjoy stories and I enjoy the characters for sure, but I don't know. I think it's kind of not my thing to think about dating the characters, I guess. Prompt G, glad you gave this book a chance. That's going to be The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I was skeptical about this book at first because it was described as a mix of sci-fi, fantasy, and dystopian. I love dystopian and I love fantasy, but whenever someone describes a book as sci-fi, I get a little nervous. Don't really understand why, because I generally do enjoy sci-fi when I read them if they're well written. I think I'm kind of picky about sci-fi maybe, and that's what puts me off of it, is if it's not good, then I'm disappointed. This, in my opinion, was pretty well written. There's some things that I would have changed, but this was her first book ever. So I think for a debut and also the start of what I think is going to be 7 or 8 books long, I think this was excellent. I'm really looking forward. I think there's 3 other books that are published besides this one in the series so far, so I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of it. Prompt H, Hidden Gem Book. So this is a book that I think is going to be a hidden gem. It's kind of hard because most of the books that I keep in my house right now are books that I haven't actually read. They're books that are on my TBR and I'm planning to read. A few of them I've read, but I tend to recycle books and put them in little free libraries, give them to my mom to borrow, give them to friends to borrow. So if you're wondering why I constantly, instead of giving you a book I've already read for a prompt, I'm adjusting it to be a prompt or to fit a prompt, you know, in terms of what I think it's going to be, that's why. So the book that I think is going to be a hidden gem is My Wife Said You May Want to Marry Me, a memoir by Jason B. Rosenthal. This book is about a man who loses his wife. I believe her death is untimely, and she encourages him to move forward with life, to date someone. And I think she either writes a letter to his new partner or puts in an ad in the newspaper for him. But basically she's encouraging him to go out and continue living. And I think this is going to be really touching. I'm not super big on romance relationship sort of books, but this sounds really sweet to me. I think that ultimately this is about grief and moving forward and, you know, recognizing that you can have maybe more than one love in your life. And then important moment in your reading life, prompt I. So an important moment in my reading life. I think one moment that's possibly an important one for me was that in 8th grade, my drama class performed the play The Hobbit. I was Keely, one of the dwarfs, so that was exciting. As part of the drama class, my teacher required us to read The Hobbit. It was my first time reading a Tolkien book, and I fell in love with that world. I devoured The Hobbit, then I went out and got the Lord of the Rings series, and then a couple years later, Lord of the Rings came out a movie, and it was, you know, a big phenomenon. I got the Silmarillion and the Children of Hurrian and all sorts of different Tolkien books, and I just went through them. So for me, that kind of solidified my love of epic fantasies. I, you know, followed that with Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and Hunger Games and all sorts of different series, but that one stands out in my mind as being the first, the really, you know, a magical experience. Prompt J, just finished. I have just finished quite a few books. I'm very excited. This month I am doing really well with my reading so far. It's January 10th day when I'm recording this, and so far I've completed 2 audiobooks and 4 regular books. So I've completed A History of Wild Places by Shea Earnshaw. This was magical and amazing, and I highly recommend. I've completed A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. Definitely recommend that if you're interested in very short fantasy tale retellings. This was kind of a unique one though. It wasn't like the classic retelling. And then The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina and Braiding Sweetgrass. So Braiding Sweetgrass was an unplanned one, but I got into it, really, really loved it, and then devoured the whole thing. Highly recommend that. If you're interested at all in nature, plant life, botany, biology, native beliefs, native culture in relationship to the earth and nature and being stewards of nature, that is a fascinating book. I thought it was going to be super dry and not that interesting. Like I thought it would be something I'd really kind of have to push through, but it was one that I absolutely loved and found myself devouring. I can't say enough good things about it. Even if you don't usually read nonfiction, give it a try. It's just so well written. And then on audiobook, I listened to Eat, Pray, Love. I've had that book on my shelf for a while. I've been putting it off because, I don't know, I love to travel and I love food. I'm a chef for a living. I've been to 25 countries, and Eat, Pray, Love was one of those books where I felt like I was going to be utterly disappointed by it. And I don't know that I was utterly disappointed by it, but I felt like it could have been a lot better. And then I also listened to Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. That was a fun audiobook, interesting story. No, enjoyable enough. Not the most phenomenal thing I've ever read, but enjoyable. Kind of books you won't read. Prompt K. Kind of books I won't read. I don't know if there's any kind of book that I won't read at all. I do periodically like to challenge myself. So if there's genres that I tend to stay away from, periodically I will do a TBR focused on that particular genre. For example, last October I did horror. Coming up in the spring I'm going to be doing romance. Things like that where they're not my favorite genres, but I think oftentimes when we say something's a genre we don't enjoy, it's just because we haven't found the right author or the right style yet. And let's see, longest book you've read. Okay, well, the longest book I've read, I don't have here. So we're gonna go longest book on my bookshelf. And that is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Sorry, I butchered the Russian pronunciation. This book weighs in at like 700 and something pages, just over 700. And that's not that bad. I have a couple other 700-page books. I have Insomnia by Stephen King, Needful Things by Stephen King. There's a few books that are, in that range. But what makes this particular daunting is look at how tiny the print is. It's not just that it's 700 pages, it's microscopic. So this would be a long read, but I've heard good things about it. I'll get there one day. Prompt M, major book hangover because of. I don't think I've ever really had a major book hangover. At least not one that I could directly relate to a specific book. There's been periods of time certainly where I've read more and periods of times where I've read less, but I feel like it has more for me to do with life, stress, obligations than I read a book and it left me hungover. Prompt N, number of bookcases you own. So I'll add in a clip somewhere over here that'll give you a little pan of the room. But I own 3 bookshelves like this. So there's this one that's black and white. I have the next one over that's like blue, purple, browns, and starts with black. And then the next one over from there is like all red, orange, yellow, green, and the start of blue. And then I have a large bookshelf on my other wall that is all cookbooks. And then there's some built-in bookshelves in my room that are like built into the wall. I didn't buy those, so I don't know if I really own those or not. I guess I technically rent those ones, but those are where all my series are. One book you have read multiple times. There are quite a few books that I've read multiple times. Most of them were series when I was younger. I've talked about them a lot. Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, that sort of thing. I don't know if there's a single book that I've read more than the others though. Prompt P, preferred place to read. I have a lot of places I enjoy reading. I like laying in my bed all cozy and snuggly in the morning reading with a cup of tea to start my day. I like reading in coffee shops. That's been a new joy recently. Since I started my new job, I have Mondays and Tuesdays off. So Monday I go and treat myself to a coffee and like a simple little breakfast in a coffee shop somewhere, and I bring a book and I just sit and enjoy my book. I also like to read in the park. My partner Oz and I used to do reading dates where we would bring a blanket and go lay out in the park. We would read in Spanish because I was practicing my Spanish. I really enjoyed that. That was pleasant. I like to read in the car on road trips. I'll bring books with me. I like to read when I'm camping. Oh, the best thing, I recently got hammocks. So when we're camping, we'll set up hammocks and I'll like put my sleeping bag inside the hammock and lay there and read. That's great. On the beach, when I go home to San Diego, I want to take like a blanket and a book and go lay on the beach and read. There's a never-ending list. My bathtub is probably one of my favorite places to read. I like to come home at the end of a long day, have a hot bath, and bring my book with me and just forget about the world for a little bit. That's probably my favorite. Prompt Q, quote that inspires you or gives you all the feels from a book you've read. So the book that I chose for this is All Strangers Are Kin by Zora O'Neill. This is about Zora's experiences in the Middle East learning Arabic. She goes to Lebanon, Dubai, Egypt, Oman, I forget where else. But it's her goal to become fluent in Arabic. And Arabic is an extremely hard language. I took it for a while in university, and I can tell you firsthand that it is so difficult and so different from any other language that you're going to learn. It's not at all like Spanish or French or Italian or Japanese or anything. It's just this own unique language. So she has studied years of modern standard Arabic in school, but that's not really what's spoken or used throughout the Arab world. And dialects from the different countries are drastically different. So she decides she's going to go on this pilgrimage through different countries in an effort to find a version of Arabic that suits her, the one that's going to fit like a glove. And I relate to this because I'm really into languages. I've studied quite a few. I'm fluent in 2. I speak a handful or conversational in a handful of other languages, and so I related to this quote. Here is where I should mention that I am sometimes overly optimistic or a bit greedy or just delusional. My father, at age 77, often jokes that he's still looking for a musical instrument that he can play without having to practice. I have the same hopeful attitude towards languages. I have tried a bit of Persian, a year of Dutch, a week of Thai. I dip into Spanish every few years. I imagine that if I could find the one language that clicks in every way, that right teacher, the right culture, the right mix of fascinating quirks and charming yet local idioms, I might finally be fluent in something. I relate to that very much because I have the same struggle with language. I dip into lots of them when I go to a new country. I get fascinated with the language. I make a big effort to learn at least polite phrases, so when I'm in said country, I'm able to at least communicate a little bit. I pick up more while I'm traveling, and then for a while when I get home, I get really interested in trying to learn the language to fluency, and then eventually it kind of fizzles out and I get excited about a new language. The only language I've really stuck with enough to become fluent in is Spanish, and that's because I live somewhere where there's so many people that speak Spanish. I've been given the opportunity to learn it to fluency, basically. Reading regrets. I don't know if I really regret anything about reading. I feel like I have read pretty consistently throughout my life. I don't really think there's any periods where I wasn't reading ever at all. And as I said, I've tried to challenge myself, especially recently, in reading genres that I don't necessarily normally read. I don't know, I don't think I have any reading regrets. Prompt S, a series you started and need to finish. All books are already out in the series. That's a tough one, there's a lot. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I started Akata Witch in December, which I really enjoyed. There's 2 more books in the series, both are published. I need to get those so I can finish it. Also Caravel, I started Caravel in November. I'm really enjoying that so far. The 2 follow-up books, Legendary and Finale, are published, as well as Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is like a epilogue or a prequel. I'm not sure where it fits in the series, but it's somewhere in there. So I guess those 2 series. I have lots of other ones as well, but those are probably the 2 that I think of off the top of my head. Prompt T, 3 of your all-time favorite books. I always hate this question so much. I don't know how anyone chooses favorite books. Something that could be your favorite at one time isn't necessarily going to be your favorite at another. It's so hard to pick things that are favorites. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, Enchanted by Renee Denfeld, Crying in H Mart was a recent favorite. There's so many good books out there. It's really, really hard. I don't know that those are 3 of my all-time favorites, or just the 3 that popped into my head the quickest. Prompt U, Unapologetic Fangirl 4. I think when this particular survey of questions came out, people were still really into Harry Potter before J.K. Rowling announced herself as a TERF. And so I think that was kind of the thing, is there's still a lot of people fangirling over Harry Potter. I certainly was a fangirl of Harry Potter when I was younger. I've really loved The Hunger Games, as I've mentioned, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, but not on like a extreme fangirl sort of a level. I have a more practical love for books, I guess, in that I love them and then I let them go and I love a new book afterwards. Prompt V, very excited for this release more than all the others. One of the releases that I was really excited about for this year was Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez. I've been looking forward to reading that one. I picked it up in my Book of the Month box for December. I haven't read it yet because I just got it like a few days ago. Or actually, yeah, December. So I just got it a few days ago. I ordered it at the end of December. So I'm looking forward to finally reading that one. I had read Black Sun last year, and Fevered Star is coming out in May this year. I cannot wait. That was such a good start to the series. It's an epic fantasy. It focuses on pre-Columbian indigenous culture. I think it's kind of centered around what seems to be like a South American amalgamation of cultures, and it has some fantasy elements, it has some sci-fi elements, there's some religious conflict, a lot going on with it. It's such a good book, and I cannot wait for Fevered Star to come out. And Prompt W, worst bookish habits. My worst bookish habit is probably that about halfway through the book, when the plot starts to really ramp up, I get anxious and I want to like flip to the end of the book and spoil it for me. And I've really tried hard to break those habits in the last few years because I've spoiled some good books for myself doing that. So now, no matter how much I have the urge to flip to the end, I try to fight it. Occasionally, sometimes I'll skim a few chapters ahead, but I try really, really hard not to go to the end and spoil the book. Prompt X. X marks the spot. Start at the top left of your shelf and pick the 27th book. Okay, so you're going to follow me to my shelf. We're going to count out 27 books, and then we're going to pick it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 27th book on my shelf is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This is a beautiful cover. It's one of my absolute favorites in my TBRs. And this book is a memoir about what it means to be Black and queer in America. This is George M. Johnson's personal memoir. I have been wanting to read this for quite a while, and I decided to save it until February. I'm working on getting together a TBR for February that features all Black authors because it's Black History Month. So this will be one of the books that's on my TBR coming in February. I am very much looking forward to this beautiful book. Prompt Y, your latest book purchase. My latest book purchase is my Book of the Month box. I got one book that was from the January selections and then 2 books that were off of the backlog of books. And the book that I picked out for January was The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. This sounded really interesting. And the way that we worked this out, my mom and I both have Book of the Month. So my mom picked out Black Cake, which I also want to read. And then I got The Magnolia Palace because that was her second selection. And then after we've both read them, we'll swap. I also got Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, which I read back in October and rated 4.5 stars or something like that. And in order to keep it, I have to have a hardback copy of it. So I saw that they had it through Book of the Month, and I went ahead and picked up that copy so I could keep it. And Sankofa by Chibundu Onuzo. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad. This is a book about a relationship between a mother and a daughter. After the mother passes away, the daughter's going through her belongings and trying to figure out really who her mom was. So my most recent book purchase for now. And Prompt Z. Snatcher book. Oh, I see. Like Z's like sleeping. Z Snatcher book. Last book that kept you up way late. So again, I don't have a ton of books that I've already read here, so I don't know that I have anything that I've read. So the one that I think is going to keep me up really late reading, that I anticipate just really delving into, is Bunny by Mona Awad. I have been reading so many reviews about how this is such a weird, dark, humorous, quirky book. Some people seem to really love it. Some people really seem to hate it. I don't know why, but I just have this feeling that it's going to be one of those ones that I love so much that I sit down and binge read the whole entire thing. We'll see. Hopefully I'll read it soon and I can let you know if it does indeed end up being the type of book that keeps me awake at night. So that's all the prompts. This has been the A through Z survey. I hope you've enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what book you're most looking forward to reading in January. What's the top of your TBR? Or if you've already read the one that was at the top of your TBR, let me know what it was and how you liked it. And hit the like button if you like this video. If you like the Tag Tuesdays, let me know. And if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button with the notification bell so you never miss a video. Other than that, I'm Caitlin Bandy. This is my channel, Bandy's Books. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.